Warning! Watching Reactive Terrain RC may cause sudden urges to buy just one more micro RC. Side effects may include angry spouse, living room converted into crawler course, and uncontrollable impulse RC purchasing. Viewers' discretion is advised. Terms and conditions apply. Reactive Terrain RC accepts no responsibility for loss of savings accounts, late night AliExpress browsing, arguments with the other half, or mystery appearances of yet another RC package on your doorstep. By watching this video, you automatically agree to them terms and conditions whether you read this or not, which is probably not really the case because honestly, whoever listens to this part will read this part anyway.
What's going on, Adam at Reactive Train? So it is 8th of June and I've decided to join the race of the 24 150 budget build. And I might have taken this a little bit, wow, my approach might surprise people. All right, so I had a look at the rules, the regulations, and I read between the lines, as all competition people should do. Always think about what they did or didn't say. So it's $150 budget build. On here, on the rules and regulations, he's got the remote, the ESC are free, the battery is free, the stock SCX24 parts are free, obviously you got the servo, that's not going to be a free part. Got some pretty good servos lying around. You're only allowed three 3D printed parts. Now, if you know the channel, a lot of stuff I do is 3D printed. This isn't an SCX24, but then I suppose as long as it met the regulations, then I could have put it in. But it is a custom 3D printed chassis. It's an SCX24. It's a 3D printed body, which I'm just kind of cutting and shutting the front end up at the moment. Tank's 3D printed. It's got 3D printed parts on it. Now I could take it off, but that's another build. What else has he got in here? 64mm tires, max tire. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. 155mm wheelbase. So anybody needs to know, that's like the Gladiator. I think TRX4Ms are 155. There's quite a lot that are at that millimeter for wheelbase. Body required. He shows an example in his video. He wants to see quite a bit of body, not too heavily cut. I think he's kind of aiming for that, still looking like a car. You know, the dudes like me, he likes scale and that type of stuff. Let's just talk about like free material. He kind of talks about, and then he goes into talking about used parts, which I'll have to bounce backwards and forwards and try and get an idea of what's going on. And throughout the video, I'll kind of ping up some prices as we're coming through the price. Now, I definitely think we can get well under the 150. The question is, what route am I going to take? Now, I have done some research. The great thing about being late to this race is that there's loads of videos already out there and what people are already building or built and submitting. And I figured, well, there's probably going to be a lot of submissions in his inbox, and I need something that is going to go, don't skip, you want this. So I did think long and hard about what I was going to do and how I was going to play this. And like everything I do in any form of discipline, whether it's RC banger racing, soapbox racing, car racing, RC racing, anything I always build, I'm always weighing up that compromise between something that looks super cool and something that can perform. It's a real fine balance between this nice scaled look and it performing. I then got thinking, well, maybe I should do something that nobody's gonna do. How can you be so sure that nobody's going to do the same as you? Well, are you ready? Let's get to this. This is my off-road steampunk, cyberpunk, back to front trike. All right, so this was what I put in AI as my concept, my idea, just to get a good visualization. AI is great for this. Doesn't get it right all the time, and it looks a little weird, and it's not quite where I'm going, but just to get a concept, this is what I was aiming for. Now, let's see if I got the parts to do this. All right, so I have dug into the realms of all of my supplies. Now, I do a lot of building, so I have a lot of scrap material. Even down here, I was having a look a minute ago, and I actually found some 1mm plates wherever I've shoved them. So like I've got old bits of cut carbon and bits like that. I do vacuum forming, so I have, you know, I could vacuum form if I wanted to. Messes, look at this place, it's an absolute junkyard. I've got quite a lot of materials that I can use. Obviously I'd put this in, this is actually brand new, so it's not even off cut, these are actually brand new. I'm not sure I'm going to use those, but for example, I would take that as the costing. Pipe benders I've already got. This stuff is what I always use to make parts with, and it's foam board, styrene board. It's actually, I don't know what these are. I got loads of these are old 2020, but look how thick that is. Great material for doing it. And then I've got a slightly smaller one, again it's promo board, but this stuff is super glue, you can file, you can sand, and it's relatively strong. So plenty of scrap material to do this build. Now if you're looking, and I'm sure you've already spotted it, I have already had a play. Now I have got some OG RC monster truck wheels, and I grabbed one out of the box, and sure enough, it is a perfect size to fit 2 tires on. These are 62 mil. So we're well within the the size for the tires. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to go hands-free. All right. So hear me out, guys. This is crazy, and I don't even know if we're going to pull it off. But there's one thing I can guarantee is it will go off-road. It will go over a rock. It will have articulation, and it will have a cab on it. So yeah, I guess we're going to tick a few boxes. Now I've used an SCX24 stock rear axle, and this has got a reverse hub on it, so I was able just to spin the hub around and lock it in place and get these guys moving. Now the one thing I am going to do is I'm going to take another drive shaft. It's an old one out of a set that was broken, and I'm going to cut this little tab off. Now I'm going to locate that into there, and that will then keep the worm gear from kind of spinning around inside. Kind of just reduces the slack, a bit of movement, a bit like shimming. Once I've done that, in my drawers or boxes, because we do 3D printed parts and we sell kits and all kinds of stuff, I've got an abundance of nuts, bolts, screws, brass inserts. It's what you have when you do 3D printing. I'll probably just do an overall, say like £3 for fixings, do you know what I mean? But this brass insert here goes straight into there. All right, now there's a reason why that is super good for what I want to do, because I went out and I found my old 1/10 rack like this, which still had a load of springs, shocks, nuts, bolts, and everything else, and I actually can't find it now. I put the camera on. Where's it gone? I've probably shunted it off somewhere. Where did you go? All right, 2 seconds.
All right, we're back. All right, so I found some Tyro lens, 1/10 ones. Are you smelling what we're cooking? Get the idea? So the plan is to get that glued into place and then put this right here, and that begins the starting point to our trailing arm. So anyone curious about what this is actually a rig jig. This is the first ever one I ever printed. I just never printed myself another one. You can find this, we actually sell this as an STL, or if you drop us a message in on our email address, we can sort you out a 3D printed one and get it shipped out. It's, you know, it's one of these pieces of kit that you have in your shelf, and this is when you use it. Right, so my plan is I've got this here. This is our Jinx chassis, but on this Jinx chassis is a portal axle. I'm not sure where it come from. They are a matching pair, front and rear, but I just want the front portal. It's a nylon. I think it's like an AliExpress special. It's not branded or anything like that. In fact, I'm almost certain it is because of the way it's been designed. So I'll be whacking that on. It's already got some 29.5, so it's already running deadbolt links, front links, which is perfect because I want this running deadbolt front links. I've also got an old ramp crab chassis that I am going to use as a donor chassis to cut up. Somewhere I also have the brass skid that this comes with, but I think I'm going to have to hunt that down. All right, so we're going to have this really small compact front end on portals with a trailing arm that comes down and around, picks up this point and has a single mono wheel at the rear. Well, if that doesn't get you noticed, I don't know what will. All right, well, look, that's enough chit chat. That's the plan. I'm now going to start cutting and shutting some parts and start building a price list and see if this is going to work. Look, I'm definitely compromising on a hell of a lot of performance, but it does, even if it gets picked and it comes last, it's going to look super, super cool. By the way, it's 7 o'clock on the 8th of the 6th, 2026. Let's build. All right, so we've got this little trailing arm on the back now. So what this will do is it will add sideward motion, but it's also going to add the wheel to kind of move backwards and forwards like this as well. So this will stay in place. So we want it to be able to have up and down motion, but I don't want it to be flailing around like so. So what I'm probably going to have to do is, once I start building this trailing arm, let's get this in the center, is I'm going to have to, fingers are in the way, sorry guys, I'm going to have to pick up in here. This is the original shock mount, or the link mount, and there's the shock mount, so I think I'm going to have to create a Y section that kind of goes in there as well to pick that up. So that's okay, we can put like a little link in there or something to pick. That will then create a Y section here, which will stop this from kind of going backwards and forwards. And then we create our trailing arm that kind of comes up and around and then towards the front end of the chassis. I think I'm even thinking about, because this kind of cyberpunk Mad Max-ish style, I'm almost thinking about putting a secondary little shock here, maybe just a stock shock that kind of just pushes the wheel that way. So we've got the trailing arm, which is going to come to this, and then this little tiny motion. It's not a lot, but it's enough to add a little bit of articulation and terrain molding. We can just kind of put it in and do a little tiny shock somewhere. I don't know, look, there's no references for this stuff. We're just going for gold. Right, I'm going to strip down the front ends. I'm actually going to use these wheels here. Had these kicking around. I've had these for years. I brought two and never, and they were on a Julie build, but the Julie wheels at the back were inch, and these are like 1.2s, but they match really well with the style. So they were in my parts bin, but I guess we'll put a price on those.
Tires, I am definitely using these ones. These are the all-terrain Injoras. Probably not the best, but I have to say they hold form really well on the back. I have got silicone inserts in them, so I've tried a couple of tires. I tried like these ones look awesome on the build, and maybe when I get it back I'll just put these on for show. But well, if it gets chosen, when I say if I get it back, like it's a given, but if it does get chosen, I get it back, I might put these on it because the build would suit this really well. However, they don't have much sidewall, so when you put them on, they kind of just keep collapsing, even with silicone inserts. Okay, so he said in the rules that you're allowed up to 155mm, which for this design, I want it as long as possible. In fact, if I was going to do this without the rules and regs, I'd probably pump this out to, I don't know, maybe 200 or at least 170, you know, really push that wheel out. But 155 is what the marker is. So I've marked the black dot. That's the center of this diff, which is obviously this wheel center. And just to double check, the arrow lines up with the center of the wheel, and that is 155mm wheelbase. Okay, now, so we've got that in play. Now I do want the front axle as wide as possible. I have gone for this portal. It is a little bit wider than this. I don't even know what this is. This might even be a ramp crab axle. I've had it since ramp crab come out, and their axles are a lot more expensive than they were when they first come out. Power plant. Now I need to check the video again and see if motor is free. So let me find my other phone and check.
I have $150 to add to that stock truck. So we have a budget build here from Partying Guy Dave as a quick example. So stock chassis rails, you don't need to count that in the pricing. Stock links, you don't need to count that. Stock shocks, you don't need to count that. And hopefully you guys get the idea of what I mean by all of that. Remote and receiver are free. I don't think I need to say anything about that. You don't need to include the remote or receiver in your price list. Battery, same thing. You don't need to include price of a battery in your pricing list.
Okay.
Talk about material prices, tungsten and styrene. This is just going to be a type of thing where it's like, use your best judgment. For example, if you're buying $50 worth of tungsten and you use half of that, then I think you should put $25 tungsten.
All right, so motor is within the build. So I think, as I have one sat here, I'm going to go Purple Viper. And I'm going to go Fat Boy. I don't put many of these in because I don't really, my bodies are normally not able to cater for it, and I don't like them sticking out. But I think if I got to cut the body and this motor sticks out, it's going to look really cool because of the cyberpunk kind of feel. Right, body choice. And the reason why I've done this, this is one of my old power wagons, the FMS FCX24M, not M, FCX24 power wagon. It's rusty, it's weathered, it's been kicking around this channel since the beginning of time, and this is its final send-off, this final build, because once that goes on there, hold on, obviously it's not going to be that low, but it's just the perfect body. We're going to have this trailing arm coming through into the cab or below the cab. The cab's probably going to sit about there, so this big rear wheel just trailing behind this cab. It's just the perfect mix of what I'm looking for. Plus I got my old Wrecker Boy that I made with his little CB radio. There is an old hole in the dash that I can put a blue neon light or a light in there, and so that the dash lights up. Definitely going to put lights on this. Cyberpunk, it's got to have lights. Alright, so this is what I'm going to do with the parts. I know these axles definitely come from AliExpress, and they're not quite the same as these, but these are the closest I can find to them. The rest of them are kind of MEUS style knockoffs, or, you know, this style here, which they're not. They are more like this. So these are £20 and 89 pence, but I'm only using one of them, so we're going to split that in half, so that's £10 and 44.5. So £10.45 pence. And then I think what I'll do is, I think it's only fair if it's second hand, and I've got it in my parts bin, I'm going to minus 20% off for spare parts. And then that's how I'm going to basically price up everything. If I've had to buy it brand new, it's brand new. If it's something I've got in my parts bin, I'll calculate what the price of them would be, and then I'll take 20% off them for being secondhand. Other than that, I think we're good. I think the body, I'm definitely going to count as free. It's like 3-4 years old. It's been kicking around for ages. SCX axle on the rear, that's free. So a couple of free parts, but not many. I will be putting in the purple Viper, so I'll get a price off Injora for that. Again, I've already got that. It's not something I brought. I do have a stockpile of these, so technically this is brand new. I could take a second-hand one off of my rigs, but I'm not going to, because these are only about £17 anyway, so I'm not worried about that. I think I have another ESC somewhere. I hope I've got another ESC somewhere. I mean, I could put the big group arse. Oh, I could put that in there. This does take 3S as well. It was playing up a bit in my... I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to risk it. It's just going to play up. I'd rather... I'm going to send it, at least send it with something I know is going to work. Right, somewhere. There's definitely another brushless ESC somewhere. I'll dig one out. I don't know where I put it. Shock wise, I do have a couple of spare Bat Razzie shocks from my 66 build, which we can throw on them. So they are 40mm oils. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the front regarding that. All right. Well, I need to build this, get this front kind of somewhere close. I'm going to start hacking and slashing this chassis. This chassis is completely incomplete. It is, again, this thing's been kicking around. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a piece of material now. And even if I was to price it, the Ramp Crab chassis are like £20, so super cheap. I'll just add a few quid for material from that. Okay, right, let's get going. That's the thing as well, when you build like I do, you've always got so many bits and bobs that you can kind of use. I really do want to try and use some oil shocks on this. There it is, that's what I've been looking for. So nice bit of bottom weight as well, because these are brass. This is the old format of the Ramp Crab chassis that they now do a new one, which looks super cool. Could use, they would look quite steampunky on the rear. Okay, few options, plenty of stock shocks. Somewhere around I definitely got 2 Bat Razzie shocks as well, so I need to hunt them down. Oh, and just quickly, he did say about kind of gave away a little bit about, I guess, the type of terrain that he might be driving on. He was talking about the rear links, and he was kind of saying, you know, give it a bit of a bend. So he's obviously got a few lines in mind that he wants to take these on. Now he's going to be testing side hill, descent, climb. Nobody knows what this type of style of rig will do. I'm hoping to get it built and submitted and test driven in the next few days. So I guess we're all going to find out very quickly whether this was a bad idea or a freaking genius idea. Hey guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel, man. I know we don't do the average Joe stuff, but we do need your support, and so does our community, to keep our course alive. So if you don't know what we do because you've just joined because of this video, check out our course, and yeah, we build some pretty incredible stuff. Right, put a comment below if how many of these you have. Boxes of bits. I was after some tiny little 1.4mm nuts. There are some in here, but I have man fingers that will not pick them up, and girly fingernails because of playing guitar that
struggled to get them up as well. Right, one more. But yeah, I have boxes and boxes of bits and parts and springs and screws, and I don't know what they're doing here. I've got a suspension box over here, obviously strayed away. I was just thinking about how I was going to price up the ramp crab chassis. And I think what I'm going to do is, I think it comes with like, it comes with the links. So that's 8 components straight away, 9, 10, 11. Comes with 2 mounts for the things, so that's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, because it comes with rock sliders. Plus it comes with, so it's about a 20-piece kit, and it is only, well, this one here was under, when they come out, they were like 22 quid off Amazon. So for argument's sake, if it was 20 quid and there was 20 components, each component is £1. So I'm using 3 components, 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 quid minus 20%, because these are secondhand. I think that's the fairest way I can do this, and with the amount of little bits and bobs that I'm going to be using, it's probably the best way I'm going to be able to price this up. So £3 in the hole. Wow. Plus 8 quid for the things. But you get my drift. This is how I'm going to do it. All right, guys. I'm going to get cut in. I'm going to probably cut this line here, this contour out. And then I want to keep some of this back so I can reattach it down here somewhere to use as the rear subframe to pick up the trailing arm for the third wheel. Oh yeah, here's a box that I take to events. This is the box. It's just got so much bits of stuff in it, it's unbelievable. But you've always got what you need when you're brake cycling, when you're out on a trail. Alright guys, so if you're going to cut some chassis rails down, my advice is bolt them through and then cut them both at the same time. And that way you get a good clean cut. So that's the chassis cut. That does leave us the other part, which I have no idea where I put it. Obviously it's carbon fiber, guys, so don't breathe in the fibers and stuff like that. And then just round off your edges with a selection of files. And I don't know where I put the last bit of the chassis. No, I'll have to find that, because I now want to bolt that to there and see what we've got kind of coming up here. So this should be our bulkhead to pick up the rear trailing arm. I'm just going to find what I'm doing. I'm actually using a old SCX24 stock chassis, classic. Bits come through, but it hasn't punctured through these bits just yet, which is good. Fat Viper, that is never been used, so it's brand new. Well, that's a mystery. Here we are. So this is the front, kind of getting dialed in now. I have put some big old 40 mils on it, Razzie oil springs, and these are nice and smooth. A little stiff though, so I'm probably going to soften them up a little bit. However, I normally band them as well. There you go, another screw on the floor. So I will be banding these so that they're fully pulled down. So that should kind of give it a little bit of play. Now it doesn't, because these are 40 mil, it doesn't quite pull up right up high. I could put smaller shocks on, and then that would pull this servo up even higher. The servo didn't fit in the servo tray, so there is a gap at the bottom, but I'm going to put a 5 kilo tire weight underneath there to get that weight down a little bit more, just to compensate it. I've done it before on a couple of other ones where I've used a weird tray, because obviously they sit on this back here. Decent bolts in it, put some washers on it, so hopefully that will be okay. Yeah, so chassis wise, I use the dog legs off the back to bolt onto it. So this is now giving us the rear bulkhead. I have kept the little bits just in case we need them, but we'll get it on the jig and we'll have a look and see what it looks like. Okay, so obviously these are quite strong, so I might even take the springs out of them and just run them on shock and band. Now we kind of got the rear tail, kind of got those. This rear end is just a smidge higher actually, needs to be down a little bit more, but kind of just trying to get the line. So that's kind of where we're at. That's our markers for our wheelbase. So now we need to connect the dots, and this is where it's going to get interesting. Yeah. Question is, how does the body sit on with these tails now? Oh, okay. Actually, not too bad. Okay, so that's... I'll get it down as close as I can to the chassis, but the motor doesn't stick out, so that's pretty cool. Shocks look pretty scaled in the body as well, which is nice. Alright, sweet. Now the beauty of what I've done here is I've utilised the rear shock towers. So I've got multiple. When I build this arm now, we've got so many, well, although this was G-Dog's old chassis, you always know a G-Dog rig because it's just full of patches of super glue and stuff. But that's easy fix and just drill through. Okay, well, we shall continue. Yep, another box full of stuff on the hunt for drive shafts. So what I'm going to do is I do have a 3D printer which I hacked off of a model, just so I can put it in place. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm not sure how this is going to work, because I think what I'm going to try to have to do is kind of from here to up and just across, and then directly down to here. This is where it all starts to get a little foreign and not too sure where to go. I think we're just going to have to mock it in and then do some testing to see what binds, what wrecks itself before I commit to building a full arm. Alright, so a few hours tonight. It's about 10 o'clock now, so I've probably been on about 2.5 hours on it in between dinner and stuff. So yeah, it looks a little Coco the Clown at the moment, and I can hear you all laughing. I can hear all the yeah rights, I can hear it all. It's fine. Well, people like me, you wouldn't have nothing to laugh at, but shocks on the front are definitely too high. So let's drop them right down. They need to be either that, I take the springs out and put bands on them, and that could work. Beauty of these wheels is I can actually flip the hub, take all these off, turn the hub out, and I can push this out even wider. I want a really wide, stable front end. Now, regarding drive shafts, I thought I may have to put a bearing carrier on it, but I've been playing around with this and I don't think I do. I'm not sure I'm going to need to. I'm going to give it a go with a single drive shaft first of all, and I'm also going to give that a little bit of elevation up here, and then give it a go. It won't be at the one, it will definitely be under the 155, because actually if I just use that one, it pulls it in by about 10 mil, so it'll be around about the 145 mark, and then we need to get it right down a little lower. Well, that's where we're at. It's amazing what you remember you've got kicking around. I don't know why I had these. I found them in me. I've also got another bag here. I think these are a lot. Oh, I don't know what these are actually. What are these? Oh yeah, these are a little bit thicker. These are really thick. But so I got those ones. Let's just spell that. Let's take that out. But I do have these ones, and these are 2mm and some brass tubing, and it's a real tight fit. So I should be able to drill that out, glue that into there, glue that into there, and we've got ourselves some tie rod ends for our links. Now I'm going to attempt to do something a little strange, and I don't even know if it's going to work because, like I keep saying, there's not really any references for these type of things. So the plan is, let's get this on my mark. There's my mark, that's just there. Because I've shortened the front end now, this is only, the wheelbase is a little shorter than originally wanted. Where are we at now, roughly? About, oh no, we're all right, we're 150, so it's about 150, so we're good, even with the shortened front end. So the plan is, I'm actually going to use this bottom one. I'm going to pick up this side of the bottom piece here. I might even put it on the skid. I don't know. I might, maybe not. I'll probably just bring it up to there so it's kind of rolling along this edge here so it protects it. Then the next one's actually going to be higher up. I'm going to bring it up here along the top and really close to this, and then back down and bring it down to there. I think, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, and that's where we're going to start. And then once we've started, we know whether we should have finished and kind of go from somewhere else. I was hoping that these random links would have fitted the front. They're nice and round, they look really cool. I might try and get one on it just because they look good. I don't know. I want to at least try and put something on the front to help it go up. I'm also probably going to do a little shield here, which will look quite cool, all painted up. And the only thing I've got to try and do is replicate this. I don't know if I've got the exact yellow anymore. Silver I can do, that's not a problem. This is matte black, and then it's just rust. So I think I can replicate most of it in any panel work that I do decide to do. Well, Mr. 24, yep, ever seen a rig like this? He's like, no, and I don't want to. All right, guys, well, let us know in the comments what do you reckon, and, you know, be honest. Well, I don't mind the honesty. I've got big shoulders. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm also entitled not to listen. I've got to cut off a few screws or change a few screws. It's a little long, but all right, I'm going to put this down. It's probably going to take me a good hour at least to get these two links in, and well, wish me luck, guys. All right, 10 to 7 the following evening. So yeah, definitely going to be changing these. They're just too big and too long. I want this servo to be able to travel up. Did notice that I could spin the wheels around though, so that's pretty cool. So I can give it a real good long wide stance, should I say. Now, the only problem I found is I may have put this the wrong way around. It's a shorter length going that way than it is that way. So I actually get a longer reach going that way. So I may have to remake the axle, which isn't a problem because I think I'm going to do that anyway. However, I can spin the motor around, take it all apart, switch the skid plate, and then build a battery mount between the motor and the servo. So I think I'm probably going to do that because that keeps everything nice and low. Alright, so I've had my bath and my dinner, and I've probably been tinkering for about 40 minutes or so, because I've changed it slightly. I did have the deadbolt 40mm links at the bottom and the 29mm at the top, but now I have made some custom top links. I had a pack of these where I'd used a couple for some links before. I think these were just like an AliExpress. You get 10 of them in a pack, and I just cut up some long bolts from the SCX24 suspension, which fitted the threads absolutely spot on. Not as short as I'd probably like them. I've still got a bit of a forward rake on the servo, but a much better thing. And yeah, the shocks are kind of very well, they're much better than the longer ones. The travel feels a little bit more fluid. I'm still gonna just loosen them up a little bit. I might drain a bit of oil out of them. To be fair, they're all right when they've got weight on them. They don't drop very quickly when you lift it up in the air. It's very slow. They are banded as well, just to keep them. Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of us band our shocks as well. Let me know in the comments if you're a big band person. These are a little bit tighter than loom bands. These are afro braided bands. They don't last overly long. They kind of perish quite quickly, but I do like them. And they're super cheap. You can get like 500 for like £3 off of Amazon or something. Now, I do have a slight problem here though. It's fouling just here. So I'm going to remove the plastic from there and hope, well, I guarantee there's probably a bearing there. So I need to take the front face off first, because that's probably a cog and then a bearing sat in that recess, which means I won't be able to take any material off, which means I've then got to try and figure out a small little shim to keep these from rubbing. Yeah, I've tried a couple of different versions. They're all doing the same. So I have got to fix that problem. I have moved the end motor around, as you can see. The motor's now on the back, but it does give me loads of room in here for the battery. A nice 3S can go in there now, and we can get that mounted in. Right. Okay, so this is the classic world of making stuff up as you go along, is that you fix a problem but create a new one. By putting the Fat Viper in, I've now got no options to put the trail arm anywhere around here other than the outside, and I don't know how well that's going to work. So the trailing arm now is going to have to sit on the outside and kind of follow the contours of this one and pick this up. I then got to create another one that kind of comes out and along and then down, and then I'm going to try and pick up this mount in there. Now I'm actually going to use some brass tubing. These are about £3 from Amazon. It's quite thick gauge, as you can see, but the good thing about this is I can solder brass to it, I can solder copper to it, and it means that we can put mounts on and so on and so forth. Now my biggest problem lies is here. You get a rock in there, we've got no bottom links, so the first thing the rock's going to do is bash on the drive shaft. Now we can put a shield on there, that's okay, but really what we want to be able to do is kind of get that up and over a little bit more, and now this is going to cause us problems to do that. In interesting. So, I mean, I could put a bearing carrier. I could do a two-stage rear link bar, so that it kind of comes up into a bearing carrier and then comes into a different one, so we do create an arch. Is it, for all the work, is it going to create enough of an arch? I don't know. I don't really know how big of a Roxy's going to be on. I mean, I can put a slider on it so it doesn't really affect it. Can kind of tilt this up a little bit more, I guess. And tilt that back a bit more, like that. That does raise it up a little bit. I think we go for simplicity first, and we test drive it and see what the situation is. I don't know. There's no references to this stuff. It's gonna look so cool though. So we're gonna go for like a cyberpunk kind of feel. Keep the rusty body. I'm gonna try and find some neon lights. Might even do like race numbers on it. Yeah, I mean, it's an open canvas, and creativity is the only word that stuck out to me. Right, well, it's amazing what you remember you've got kicking around. I don't know why I had these. I found them in me. I've also got another bag here. I think these are a lot. Oh, I don't know what these are actually. What are these? Oh yeah, these are a little bit thicker. These are really thick. But so I got those ones. There's a spell on that. Let's get that out. But I do have these ones, and these are 2mm and some brass tubing, and it's a real tight fit. So I should be able to drill that out, glue that into there, glue that into there, and we've got ourselves some tie rod ends for our links. Now I am going to attempt to do something a little strange, and I don't even know if it's going to work, because like I keep saying, there's not really any references for these type of things. So the plan is, let's get this on my mark. There's my mark, that's just there. Because I've shortened the front end now, this is only, the wheelbase is a little shorter than originally wanted. Where are we at now, roughly? About, oh no, we're all right, we're 150, so it's about 150, so we're good, even with the shortened front end. So the plan is, I'm actually going to use this bottom one. I'm going to pick up this side of the bottom piece here. I might even put it on the skid. I don't know. I might, maybe not. I'll probably just bring it up to there, so it's kind of rolling along this edge here, so it protects it. Then the next one's actually going to be higher up. I'm going to bring it up here along the top and really close to this, and then back down and bring it down to there. I think, I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, and that's where we're going to start. And then once we've started, we know whether we should have finished and kind of go from somewhere else. I was hoping that these random links would have fitted the front. They're nice and round, they look really cool. I might try and get one on it just because they look good. I don't know. I want to at least try and put something on the front to help it go up. I'm also probably going to do a little shield here, which will look quite cool, all painted up. And the only thing I've got to try and do is replicate this. I don't know if I've got the exact yellow anymore. Silver I can do, that's not a problem. This is matte black, and then it's just rust. So I think I can replicate most of it in any panel work that I do decide to do. Well, Mr. 24, yep. Ever seen a rig like this? He's like, no, and I don't want to. All right, guys, well, let us know in the comments what you reckon, and, you know, be honest. I don't mind the honesty. I've got big shoulders. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm also entitled not to listen. I've got to cut off a few screws or change a few screws. It's a little long, but all right, I'm going to put this down. It's probably going to take me a good hour at least to get these 2 links in, and well, wish me luck, guys. All right, so it's actually quite late. I've been on the phone for the last hour and a half to my best mate, so it's good to catch up. It's good to chat. But I'm probably going to wrap it up tonight. Bit of progress, kind of not the direction I thought I was going in. I kind of just make it up as I go along now. But I often say, if the components are fitting without too much mods, then, well, you might be on the right track or not. It's just about there. I've got it kind of temporary, you know, trying to keep it not glued. I've got to glue one of the pins in, but let's have a look. All right, so this is the rear section. So it's still got, it's really floppy at the moment because this is not glued in yet. So once that's kind of glued in place, which would be about there somewhere, that'll stiffen that side up. So we've got the arm that comes around here, we've got the 3 arms that come around here. Now once that has been glued, what we'll still have is that motion still. So that is no go. I don't want that. So once that pin's glued in place as well, it'll lift itself up, the link on there. However, if you take a 40mm and put it, right, let me get a pair of pliers and I can hold it in place. That, oh, hold on, sorry guys, right, that will go down into there and then connect onto the brass link that I've put up. So that goes from there to there. So it's kind of like a really weird 4-into-2 link system, but it does clear the tire, and it does pick up the new points that I put in, so I don't need to do anything with it, which is fantastic. That will then stop that last little bit of wobble, but then we're still going to look at that movement. Oh, moves well when it's not bolted in. That one there. And then, yeah, so then we've still got that movement. So there's loads of flexy twist on there, which means I can put a shock somewhere. And yeah, that's where we're at. I've got editing day tomorrow. I've got a video to edit up tomorrow, so I'm not sure how much I'll get on here, but hopefully I'll get enough to get it buttoned up just to give it a test drive. All right, guys, so the old crazy professor's been at it. Right, so I've probably been here, had some grub, got home, showered up, probably been sat here for about an hour. Now, a couple of things I have sorted out. I actually redid this bar, because I had this little dog leg that was all funny and we're going to struggle getting it all in, so I just created a single piece again. And I've also attached the shock. Everything's attached quite crudely at the moment. That was from like a little tiny brass hinge. And remember, copper, brass, they all braze together, soldered together. I'm just using a little blowtorch, clean up your areas, bit of solder and some plumber's flux. You can do it with a soldering iron, but this is quite thick stuff, so it's not too bad to do really. You don't get a lot of heat transfer around. Now it does look really nasty. Obviously I've kept all the O-rings on. This will all be changed up. I'll polish everything up, clean everything up, new O-rings and everything. Now, one of the problems I was getting after I'd done a single monoshock is I really wanted to keep this motion. You know, off-road is all about articulation, so we'll have up and down movement and a little bit of this. And I was sat here going, how on earth am I doing this? So in my box of tricks, put my watch out of the way, I've got, and I think they come from you know, when you get shocks they give you spacers, and so I had these ones. So what I'd done is, and I only have two. Oh no, maybe, no, actually no, I don't. There's a couple more in there. Anyway, I only need, oh, I have got a couple more in there. All right, that's good. I only need two. And like I say, they obviously come from a pack of shocks because there's springs in the bits of shocks. They've even got these like brass cups, which I'm going to be honest with you, straight away, if I can put a red light bulb in that, I've got myself a rear light. Anyway, we're getting distracted. Because I do a ton of 3D printed stuff, I have these. And what I did, without spilling thousands of these all over the carpet, is they don't quite go into that socket yet. So basically I just drilled it out, and oh no, oh, this is a different one to the one I just done. Oh, that is a result. That's literally just popped straight in there. All right, well, that's that sorted out. Now I'm curious. What's this one in the corner? Jeez, I just took ages drilling one out, pressing it in. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is the one. Oh no, that's bigger as well. Maybe I didn't have two. Maybe I only had. Oh no, here we go. There we go. So that was the one I just used. So I just drilled it out. I didn't even see these other ones, and now I'm on the camera. That fitted straight in there like a glove. A little bit of solder on the back end of it. Job done. So that's now got a fixing in it, which means we can attach 1.4, basically an SCX24. So like I say, this is all quite crude. This all needs filing and rounding off. By the time it's rounded off, it actually barely just touches the tyre. And so what I'm going to do is mount this over here, like so. Now what that means is I've got a bit of suspension on this rear arm. Now it doesn't, I could pop this over here. The problem being is that if I move that, when it's sat, it sits kind of like that. So I've got to kind of compromise on the well, I've been trying to get that up level as much as I can. It's really difficult to do. I'm hoping that once this is in place, that'll kind of help it. This is an internal sprung one. I use these on quite a lot of my scale builds. I love them. I do, because I like the kind of wheel travel setup. But yeah, I got a load of them. Check out my class 1 build video. I use them on that. I do need to pull that over a little bit, or extend that. It's slightly skew width. I don't really want to put much more extension on that, because that's going to start getting wobbly. So I can put a longer bolt on there and a bit of a spacer, just to really bring that in nice and clean. I got to take that off to solder this on. If I put it, Yeah, so if I put it on this side, there's not much on that to pull it. You see how it sits really terribly, like diving down. Definitely a challenge to try and get that to sit up, and that's what this is kind of for, just to help pull it around. And come on. You get the idea. I'm going to weld it in and just weld it in. I'm going to solder it in and see what we get out of it. It's a real compromise because I want to try and keep that articulation as well as the up and down. Let's do it, see what it turns out like. Hello and good evening and welcome to Nothing Wants to Work. Electronic wise, yeah, ESCs. I've got 3 for the Vipers. One's still working. I had one in my 6x6, and then the newest version that doesn't power the receiver. I think I used it for all of about 2 minutes, and then it just, well, carked it. So that's no good. Plus, the wheels are going in towards each other. It's not the rear diff because I just checked to that, so I'm going to have to swap. Well, I think I can fix it by swapping the hubs. So I think. I'm not too sure. First time I've ever had this issue. I'm sure I'll resolve it. Alright, guess what I'm doing? Alright, I can't publish anything because this is kind of top secret build. I cannot figure out why these wheels are going backwards, why these wheels want to go forwards. Really strange. The axle's not upside down. It's not like I mean, no, that's not going to be it. This was in another rig which was working fine and driving fine because it was in this one here, with the portals. Oh, I don't know. My brain is too tired for this now. I think it's gonna be sleep on it and then come back and try and find out what's going on. Alright guys, well, let's shut shop and try again tomorrow. Okay, I haven't got the bed. I'm back. I'm actually just sat here looking at it. I think I am going to swap the portals out. I've never had this before, and I suspect maybe the portals were working fine with the other rear portals, but I don't want to go through all the work of cutting down another axle, so the quickest and easiest way is to swap out the front axle. And now I've got plenty of SCX24 front axles. I've got this metal front axle, but I also think I've got a MEUS axle as well. I know I used one for my jawbreaker. I have a project box down here, which has essentially just random new stuff in it. Links, 6x6 diff things. Oh, some. Oh, I forgot I brought those. Injora links, tie rods. Yes. Although I don't know where all the bits are. That's what I'm going to do. Ah, there it is. Boom, boom. The one thing I was sitting here doing is just running some basic flex tests and weight distribution. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know how this is going to perform, because the flex test and the weight distribution actually are really good indicators of of whether it's actually going to perform or not. Check this out. All right, so the actual MEUS axle is probably going to be a little bit heavier than this one. So let's have a little look at kind of tilting forwards, and that's it's still fighting me. Still fighting me. Still fighting me. I mean, that's almost on the front. I'm just about to touch the mat with the front axles, and it's pulling back. So loads of rear weight on incline. I think this is where the interesting thing is. I've got to sort that out still. Got to make that a little bit more rigid, because that on an incline is all it's going to be fighting. And yeah, it's good. I think the incline is going to be really interesting. Side flex. Now, technically, that's on its side and it's not doing anything. So, but that is on its wheel. I mean, that's a 4-finger. Now, because I'm going to be putting this shield plate here, which is deliberately for scuffing rocks and being pulled along, because this side we don't need to worry about it. There is a fine line between that wheel taking the whole thing, but again, where does it stop? Okay, so it's about there. It's nearly a 4-finger lift. So balance is all right, even on the does it balance on the slider? Not so much that side, although you can flex it out. No, it doesn't like one side, so it's definitely going to have a better side. Now, I did notice that when I could add a little bit of weight on this rear wheel, just on this outside edge, and that will help just keep that wheel longer before it completely goes over that side. So I'm actually going to lead the outside of this wheel, but hopefully this will solve the gearing issue, and away we go. All right, it's nylon as well. I don't think it's a it is a MEUS one though. It's a MEUS nylon, so I guess that is a brand new part. Add that to the bill. Hey guys, welcome back. Right, so a few things have changed. I have to say that this little project come at a great time. Needed a fair bit of distraction lately. A good friend of mine isn't very well, so it's been good to kind of take my mind off of something a little creative and something that kind of holds a little bit more concentration at these times. And I'm sure there is plenty of you that, you know, some maybe use the same thing to just kind of break away from the world that we know. Okay, so the problem was caused with the front wheels going forwards and the back wheels going backwards. Was these have got reverse gears, so can those. I put the MEUS 55-degree turn on, which actually is probably quite a good idea. I don't know what the turning circle is going to be like for this. You know, I posted a little picture of the of it moving around, and you know, I've been honest, I have no idea how this is going to react, respond, drive, crawl, who knows. I had to do a little bit of test driving on trying to, you know, come back up. I think what we're going to need to do is either do a lower tire, take out these silicons, give these a little bit more squish to get more bite. We used to pulling 2 wheels up, but you know, quite a lot of the time it's 1 wheel at a time, so it kind of steps itself. Now we're dragging a big wheel around. I could have done just 1 wheel. Would that make a bit of a difference? I don't know. The balance would be very difficult to get. This would be your single wheel. I could get an offset and put it in the middle somewhere. Something to look at if this doesn't work. Still got a few days to get it to perform. Going to take it to the course on Saturday to try and get it to see if it can actually go over anything. Tonight I'm going to be shaving off all the excess carbon fiber, so taking this line out here, getting rid of those. As you can see, I've put this bit of carbon fiber extension, which was from the chassis rails when I cut off the middles out. So I've put this dog leg on the shock just to give it a better feel. So I'm going to cut across that, get rid of that, and replicate that on the other side. The other thing I'm thinking about doing tonight, if I get time, is putting a link bar in here and following the drive shaft and picking up this mount under here. That'll act as a slider for the drive shaft, give that a bit of protection as well, and we can see how that acts. These are all trial and error, you know, we're just winging it. Just looks freaking cool as hell though, so who cares what it goes like if it looks cool. All right, well, that's where we're at. I'm gonna go take a bath, have a bit of dinner with the kids, and then yeah, settle in for the night and crack on. All right, guys, so today I actually posted some little snapshots of this on social media, and thank you for everyone that has commented and, you know, just gone, yeah, this is cool. And you're right, it is cool. Look, let me put this straight to you. I don't know how this is going to perform, and I'm going to have to take a load of bits with me on the course to dial it in, because there's a lot of unknowns here, purely because there's no references or anything that's ever like this. So, you know, the Wright brothers were laughed at, but hell, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be flying today. So a lot of people talk about, oh, it's only going to go left side or right side. Well, that's because you're looking at this as a symmetrical vehicle. This isn't a symmetrical vehicle. Yes, the front is symmetrical, but the rear is completely not. Now, if I allowed this arm to push all the way up, when it sits flat, this arm would go up. These wheels would stick up, pushing this to the ground like that. Okay, and that will add some real weird displacements. Now, I could remove this and just keep it as a solid arm so that it actually just moved up and down like this. But I wanted to try and add just a little bit of articulation. So this is what I mean. Now, when it's on a, what's that? Left tilt, yeah. It pushes the wheels to the ground, which is what I want it to do. Because when it's on the right tilt, we have all of this tire. Yeah, so right tilt, still on the tire. What we're trying to do is stop that from hitting the floor before we run out of tire. Yeah, so we need that solid. So as much as I would love this to kind of go up, it's going to be tricky to do. However, we also then have that way. But this is kind of just for when it's just fluidly moving around. This is a big problem. You know, look, you know, yes, I could probably shrink that down, but not by a lot, you know, a few mil. But this is why I'm going to have the slide plate. Not sure what I'm going to use yet. I did have an old skid somewhere. There it is. So this is a skid pan for underneath, and somewhere in my box I know I've got like a stamped version, you know, just kind of something like that, maybe a little bigger, maybe something a little bit more cosmetic as well. But essentially that is what I'm doing, putting that on there so that when it rolls over, if I can get it to sit on. When it rolls over and it's on the rocks, it's sliding on this. So, plus there's a couple of other things. I may have to change the rear wheels might need to be different to the front wheels. Front's going to rely on a lot of pulling power. This is a big lump of tire to get up any, you know, sizable rock. It's the world of unknowns. Look, we're here to have fun. I'm doing it. Hopefully there's plenty of people that it will scratch an itch and go, I did wonder whether it will work. And sure, somebody could come up with an idea that may work even better, but we've got to start somewhere, and I've started, and this is where we started. Look at me. Haven't even done my hair because it's shower time, baby. Yeah, it goes and works, doesn't it? So, hold on, let me sort my hair out. Okay, so when you post something like this, just pictures or small little demonstrations, you get a lot of people going, well, that won't work, that won't do this, that won't do that. And you know, you have no idea how this is going to go. Well, I just did, well, I got it alive, put a battery in it, fired it up for the first time. So no test drive, it's just bench testing. And it is awesome. Basics, nothing exciting, but enough to really get me stoked on this build. And one thing I did
literally just learned is that I've only got to get the front through the obstacle, because the rear is just pulling along. So if there's a big boulder on the left hand side, the rear doesn't need to do it. So you've only got off balance the vehicle once instead of twice. Why are we not building more of these?
All right, well, it's been 24 hours since my last confession. Right, so social media, first of all, thank you. Everybody really digs this rig. In fact, 99% of the comments that come through was super positive and just loving the concept. And I'm glad we could come up with something that was a little bit different, a little bit crazy. Now I've got to dial it in. So I'm going to make a battery tray to sit in there to hold the battery. And then I'm going to take all this apart, get all this off, get it all cleaned up, replace all the O-rings, because obviously I've burnt all the ones that are in there, shave off these harsh edges, just basically overall clean all this up to make it look super clean and tidy, ready for testing tomorrow. Had a couple of people talking about this suspension. There's a few different reasons why it doesn't go up, because it would push this down into the ground, and so I wanted to keep at least some of that, and yeah, maybe it will work better one way, or maybe it just drives better one way. Overall, really, I could have just kept this bar completely solid and just had up and down motion, and as it articulated, it would just use the rear tire as the articulation rather than this suspension. But this looks super cool and actually functioning as well. So it also keeps this all in check and stops this from kind of moving over a little bit. I need to glue these in. These are just little metal pins that slide into the brass. I kind of free idle this in. This was kind of just freehand. You know, you can kind of mark places where you think the bends are going to be and just kind of bend it all in. If you are going to be brazing, I would say clean up both parts, flux both parts, put solder on both parts, and then put them together. It's quite tricky, it's fiddly at this kind of scale. You can always wrap a little bit of wet cloth up here if you've got a joint quite close, so that you stop the heat from transferring. But this stuff's really thick, so you can use a little kind of torch on it rather than a soldering iron. But for the thinner stuff, you would definitely need a soldering iron. Now, let's talk about bodies. I could go for 100 different types of bodies, and you're all going to have your own, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. But the fact is, I've got the Power Wagon, so I'm going to use the Power Wagon. I've got a trimmed Power Wagon. Wow, I've actually got to get rid of these bits here, get rid of that, get rid of this, trim this off. Ooh, it's not going to focus. Trim this off as well. So I'm going to trim all that up, and then we're going to have a look and see how the Power Wagon fits. Once the Power Wagon body's on, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut out some plates out of some really thin plastic I've got down here, that go over the door, square, or I might shape them up a little bit just to give them a bit of character up. And then I'm going to kind of spray them up all kind of funky and put some numbers on them, some sponsors, just from old sticker sheets that I've got, and have them slightly raised off the body. And then I'm going to put like a neon LED behind it, so that when the lights are on, this panel has a back glow to it. So both of those on one side. I might even create one on the roof, just on one side only though, just because it looks super cool. Put a number on the roof, backlight one of them, light up the rears, and then make this skid plate here, this scuff shield, and then hopefully get it out on the course and get it tested. I'm going to obviously weather up the wheels, get them painted up looking super cool. I don't really need to do much with that. I think that looks really good. Yeah, I might just weather it up a little bit and add a little bit of, you know, just line work into it maybe. But overall, it's pretty much clean as. Alright, once again, I'm going to strip it down and kind of get these bits in place. All right, so we've getting ready to mount the body. So this is what I'm going for. And hopefully, I mean, look, you guys are going to have 1,000 different opinions on what body I go for. And maybe this won't be the body eventually. Who knows? It's kind of measuring in around about 145, the wheelbase at the moment. I have hinged the power wagon just on the front, but it's enough just to pull the battery out, because I want to try and keep the lights and get them wired in. So yeah, it's kind of sits quite nicely. So I've got this old bit of signage I just cut out. Now this stuff is really nice. It's like a UPVC, really thin. And basically I cut that tab out, as you can see, and I've just gently heated it up with a torch and just kept molding it and molding it. And then I'm going to get a little tiny screw into there and hold that plate on there, and then I'll just sand off this sharp little edge, and that'll act as a onboard slider as well. I might round this end off, but you know, if you were doing a lot of reverses, it just kind of act as a scoop. So I'm either going to glue a little panel on there to basically encase it slightly, just because I think that would look really cool, look a bit more kind of body panel like. So I'll probably encase it, add some, you know, vents maybe on it, who knows, just to give it some scale and purpose instead of it just looking like a plate. I'm also going to put the number on here so we can have the number. I did do quite a bit of sculpturing out of the body. Kind of the other thing I'm going to do is probably cut a bit out of this, and I want to create like a door panel, if it ever focuses, sorry guys. Create a door panel that's actually slightly offset from the door itself, and then I'm going to put some neon LED behind it, so it's actually backlit both sides, and a roof panel with some sponsors and stuff like that. So all these panels will be backlit with a really bright pink LED. I've actually got the strips, you know, the sticky back strips. I've got loads of those in different colors. It'll only take about a dozen LEDs wired all in, and they're nice and flat, so you can just stick it to the top, drill a little hole through, and get ourselves some pink neons on it. Bearing in mind we are going for like a kind of cyber-ish punk look. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just slowly cut the strip and just slowly gluing this all down and molding it into a bit of shape. And I use a little bit of filler just to clean it all up so it looks clean and tidy, and then we can spray it. I just got this little end here just to glue together and then kind of fold it back in again. But yeah, kind of motorbike-esque, I think, but it looks cool. Hey guys, all right, so I'm actually making these kind of weathered and worn panels, and I wanted, these were always part of the concept, these, and I wanted like race car sponsors and all kind of, you know, and the number. I think the brief behind this, when I kind of had it in my mind, was like a post-apocalyptic kind of cyberpunk race rock crawler or race crawler or something like that, something really bizarre. So they would have used an old body from a scrapyard and whatever they could get hold of, but you know, they'd need somewhere to put sponsors and numbers and stuff like that. So I wanted to make these kind of bolt-on panels, but I'm also backlighting them. We've got loads of these. In most households have got all these little LED strip lights. My daughter had these neon pink ones, so it's now a few inches shorter, and I'm basically there underneath here, so you actually get a little bit of purple glow underneath each of the panels. So that's where I'm at. Now I'm at this stage, I've had all these ideas and then kind of mocking up and going, actually I don't like that, actually I don't like this, but hopefully I'm going to crack on with this now. Well, come on, Don't tell me you've never done this. I'm not cutting any wires until I actually take it out and know if it is worth it. I've done a few little tests down on the ground, and I'm going to be honest, well, it does what other crawlers do. So I'll do the wall test, the vertical test, the side test, and see where we're at. I've got a slight issue with these LEDs. I didn't realise that they were actually 12 volts. I thought they had a reducer down, but they're actually 12 volts. So it actually says it right there as well, 12 volt. However, what I think I'm going to do is, not that there's much room, but I might put another little switch somewhere that has a power that goes direct to the battery, so that you can kind of put all those lights on, and then you can also just turn them off. So it's kind of looks cool, but you can turn them off, and then see how we get on, and maybe I'll source some different ones to go in there. I just really like that neon pink. Other than that, you know, just playing. You know, it's got the little side pod, looks like a panion off a motorbike, or even an old fuel tank off a motorbike. Very Mad Max, isn't it? You know, so, but yeah, tomorrow we give it a go. Tomorrow we take it out, we test it. We stop it suddenly and forwards, actually does an endo. So hey, we're all learning here, aren't we, guys? Right, it's getting late. I've had enough. Let's give this a test drive tomorrow on the rocks and see what she does. All right, guys, here we are down at the course. Still working on this new section, so still plenty of rubbish around, but new section's getting there. But that's not what we're here for. This is what we're here for. So we're going to go and play on this section. We've got a load of repairs to make on here. It's all got mould. What am I expecting? I don't know is my honest answer. I've had a little play at home. I've kind of had a little play on a little rock. I've had a play on the bench. I think inclines are going to be tricky because you're balancing on that rear wheel. Trying to drive one-handed. It's quite dusty. There's a lot of grit around. And it might not even get up here because we're on the drift course and you just lose traction on that rear wheel. So you kind of have to bump it up. Now it's just sliding. A different approach, it's better. Okay, all right, well, let's throw it at some obstacles and see how we get on. I knew I should have charged the battery as soon as I got down here. Battery's on charge, it died. A couple of things I noticed why I had a few seconds of battery left in it, and I already picked this up earlier in the video, is the fact that that large rear wheel is going to need some weight on the other side of the wheel, so not the entire wheel, the edge of where the wheel nut goes, to balance off that whole axle. It's going to be heavier where the drive shaft and everything meets to the wheel, so I need to weight that, because as soon as you go up an incline, I knew inclines were going to be the trickiest one to kind of do. It wants to fold. That being said, once it's on, it pulls so cleanly. Its breakover is really good. I was just kind of mucking around with the Rock Bunny. Now there's a vertical elevation climb on the side of it that really kind of, you need to be the 155 plus to kind of get over it, just because of the overhang. But I think if we can put a few rocks down to just bridge that
length gap, because it is kind of a class 2, class 3 line. I think it stands a chance of doing it. Definitely drives a little different. You've got to rethink how you drive a crawler, because you're trailing a single wheel. So the front wheels can tackle the obstacles lovely. A lot of people will keep mentioning the fact that it only articulates one way. Look at the build. It's not a symmetrical build. We've got tyre on the left and hub and travel on the right. So your suspension won't do the same both sides. In fact, what you've got to do, or what I'm doing, right or wrong, is actually using the build for articulation when it goes left tilt, right tilt, right tilt. And so it has more of it has that slider. That's what that's there for. It's designed to compensate the left tilts. And then the right tilt, we have the articulation and everything like that. Obviously the big tire as well. Overall though, just a few seconds, other than it not getting traction on this stuff, which none of them do. I think we're in for a very interesting afternoon.
All right, guys, so this is a very different type of driving. First things I notice, you really got to take your time with it, and you've got to kind of really line your rear wheel up a lot more than you probably would do with all 4 corners. Now we have taken out the foam, silicone foams on the front, just because we noticed that it was skipping a little bit. That line's wrong. But these aren't beadlocks, so now the tires completely collapse on it. But when I'm not staring down the lens of the camera, I can actually drive this thing. That's a 145 wheelbase, and that's a pretty good line. And at the other end of this, it's got a complete vertical drop, which I'll show you. Now, I did try this earlier on today, and it takes just a smidge of commitment rather than hesitation, because again, this is a short wheelbase. Well, not short, but 145, and this is kind of a long class 2 and a class 3 line. But if I can get it right, I can just grab that worm gear to kind of latch me on. But just before it goes, try and catch it. Just like that. All right, so it does perform, and it's you've got to be a little bit more precise. You haven't got 4 corners for forgivement, or even forcing kind of your line. So you really got to, well, drive it like you're lining the rear up. That's how you're going to kind of get this. This is, and yeah, look, it drives left differently to it drives right. And we've actually weighted this wheel and weighted the back end of this and then stiffened the shock up. And this is all to counterbalance this pod here. We have got that slider on, and I'm going to reform it slightly. It just catches quite a bit down here, on this bit down here. So it works. It definitely helps glide along. It just needs to be reshaped now that I've driven it. What else? Got no silicone in the tires, but we've just cut down them because these, we were struggling to get traction. They were just, it was skipping. Took them out, doesn't skip, but we got tire wall collapse.
So we're going to pull these off. Now, the other thing I might have to do is swap these wheels out and put bead locks on, which is a shame, but needs must. Yeah, other than that, it's pretty good. We've got a little bit of front tilt on the axle. We might have to make some bottom links to push that bottom out a little bit more. But we'll see. All right, so look, it's not a conventional crawler, as you can see, as we've all seen, but it's super. I'm really impressed with how well it handles the terrain. It does have its limitations. It definitely works better on a left tilt because you've got all this tire. The right tilt is a very different type of line. So I've got to think of something to kind of make this a little smoother, maybe a bearing on it, just so it rolls a little bit better. We were just saying as well, we might push this wheel out a little bit more. So because it's a non-symmetrical build, pull this tire out on a hex spacer, because basically when you're coming up, it wants to fold this way all the time. A lot easier than that way. You can feel it when it's up, that you can feel the resistance on the tire. That you've got no resistance. It just wants to dive down here. That is why I don't have it flexing up, because the moment you go up, it already wants to go that way. So if we can put a longer hex on that, that should maybe give us a bit more stability, maybe. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more weight on the end of this tire. Time to just tinker it and get it. But I'm really happy with how it's performing. So now that definitely means I've got to tidy up all the cables, because it actually works. All right, this thing is so much fun to drive. You have to completely change how you drive crawlers. You got to be a lot slower on controlling it. Those sudden sharp movements, because we've only got the single wheel, off balances it even more so than, you know, with 4 corners. But I don't know, you know, I'm not, you know, if Trey does pick this, obviously he's out in the big wide world on that beautiful rock he's got. I think he would probably need to take it out and just get a bit of wheel time with it, just to kind of understand the physics beside what's going on at the back and how it functions, just so he stands the best chance of yeah. I mean, I would probably, you know, I'm going to spend a bit of time with it. It definitely performs really really good lines. Side hill it's definitely going to be its downfall. I can get it to decline now, come down things. You just got to learn it. It's a very different type of beast, and I absolutely love it. It climbs, it comes down, it can go off-road. I mean, what more do you want? We did it. All right, so it's been a good afternoon, or a good couple of hours. Let's go through some of the changes we've made and what we're going to need to dial in and button up. Okay, now look, of course, you could potentially trim down an SCX24 axle, put it in the middle, 2 wheels either side. You know, there's a number of different ways we could have done this, but this is the way I've done it. It's super cool, and it's added some really cool challenges to the world of this little hobby. So I stiffened up this bit a little bit. This seems to be working okay. This is got the spring in its normal position. I could do one that's constantly kind of keeping this pulled up. Yeah, I mean, it works fine. We stiffen this one right up, this shock here. Oh, can't see it. There we go. Stiffen this one up. So what I'll probably do is swap this out and put a stronger spring in and reverse this wheel. Now when you look at it, I actually got this nice, let's get everything kind of straightened up. We've actually got this nice triangle now, and this is part of your triangle. So what was happening when this was dumped right in here is that this would just fold over. Now it doesn't fold over nowhere near as easy as it was. So the stability is fantastic. Tires aren't the grippiest. I'm still debating whether these are going to be the right way forwards for tires, or whether the front needs to be different to the rear. So what does that mean now? It means that I'm really happy with how this build's going, so I'm going to cut all the cables, get them all shrunk down so that we can get the Power Wagon body on it. So I'm going to get that on it, remake this panel here, this slider, and because we've offset it, I think this is a really cool feature to this build. We can now add maybe like a little wheel arch on just one side, or a little pod that has a few lights in it, just to give it some really cool character. And I think we're done. All right, so back home after a great morning of testing, and I have to say this thing is great fun. It's so cool. But let's have a little look at the budget. All right, so $150. That's £111.87. That's not a lot of money to build something as crazy as this. But
Well, I do have a bit of a story. So let's have a little look. I put about £3 for some second-hand ramp crab. They don't make this one anymore. It's completely discontinued. And I used a few parts out of it. Like I said before in the video, it comes with like 25 different pieces. So I just split all that up with the cost of it. And at the time that we brought these, the ramp crab chassis are really cheap. The iNomad servo, these are from AliExpress. Now, if you actually buy a big bundle of them, like I do, you don't pay no P&P, and they're about 16 quid each. So I can't rate these enough. They are so good. Fat Viper, although I'd unboxed it, it had never been ran, so pretty much new. So you take the dollar price and you convert it down into pounds, you've got £20.91. MEUS front axle, like you saw, was new out of the packet, but this is where the big question mark lies, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Drive shafts, links, all that, and the shocks. I've got random shocks, like one of this and one of these. Yeah, they're all, I mean, these things have been kicking around my box for the best part of 2 years. I think every build I kind of do has those, although now I'm missing, so gonna need to buy some more. But there we go. £15. The rear axle is an SCX24 axle, is free. Tires and inserts are all used, and I just put 11 quid. Probably a little generous if I'm honest, but you know, there we go. The body, I'm not, you know, is free. Hardware, so nuts, bolts, bit of plastic, the brass, about 10 quid. The gearbox I'm running is an SCX24, so that is free. The lead I put in the wheels and tires is free, and the ESC is one of my old ones that I've had kicking around. I use it. I've got a couple. Well, actually, I don't anymore because they're not working properly. That was the last one that actually works properly. So yeah, I haven't actually put anything for that either, because I've literally this one and the one I decased I've had kicking around for ages. The newest one I brought is, because the old first gen is the second gen, but that doesn't seem to be putting power to the RX at all. So it puts me round about the 110.91. Sure, I'm kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit, but I suspect we all are.
But here's the little curveball, and this is a story I can verify. If the law and the courts of the 24 YEP wants to. I have a friend who's a good friend of the channel, good friend of the course, and a good friend of mine. About 8 months ago, I think it was around then, he purchased off eBay one of 24 YEP's bundles. In that bundle was a Roski Fab buggy. And if I remember correctly, that thing was really, really heavy. 4-wheel steer. There was a couple of other little bits in there which I can't remember too much about the kits. I know there was an little guy racing body that had been sprayed up, kind of American flag, I think. There was also a TRX4M Injora build, pretty much a full Injora build, and I know that because, well, I acquired that. And it was 4-wheel steer. One of the servos wasn't on it, and I know why. Faulty as anything. Wants to work, then doesn't want to work. However, within that box of parts and bits that he purchased was also a load of MEUS parts, which I also traded. So I traded all those parts out of that bundle for some 3D printed bodies and some custom paint jobs. So I'm not actually going to do the full market price for these axles, because the axles didn't cost me anything other than a bit of time to do some painting and stuff like that. Now that may seem a little cheeky, but the story is true, so I can verify the story. That's what I'm doing. However, I'm not going to do them completely free. I'm just going to have £5 because I got tons of stuff within that bundle, and by the time you stripped it all down and divided everything up, it's a bit like somebody buying an SCX24 for like $50 and realizing it's got, well, a load of high-end parts on it. Now, you can't take them for completely free, but I can verify it. He can verify it. And Yep24 might even, or 24 Yep, might even remember it. So I'm £30 back in the green.
So after story time with Adam, let's go back to the build. All right, so after today's testing, one of the things I've just done is I just removed about 3mm off these top links to pull this back in. Now sitting a lot squarer, a lot straighter. The servo was kind of diving down. I still got to trim a bit off it, so that's all sorted out. Now I've got to condense all this cabling down and build a proper plastic tray, which I did start doing last night, which is super technology. Bit of metal, plastic, and kind of just goes in place there, but I can do better than that. I was tired. And then it's down to kind of working on the aesthetics things. I have got to build another pod out of plastic, but this is all just scrap plastic. Yeah, and then it's kind of getting the body done. All right, so I'm doing some painting. I handmade this kind of fender because we've got this kind of triangle thing going, so the body sits off center. I thought I'd make this, and I found an old broken Unimog light, which I can then glue into that. This is the fender for the rear. I just reformed it. I actually really liked it, like the way it looked, so I didn't want to waste it, so I actually reformed it, and I've actually lacquered these parts just so that they kind of stood out from the body. The body's very matte. I made these are the panels which have got backlit with the neon lights. I don't know how bright they're going to be. They're facing the body, you know. We're in no man's land here, and I just lacquered them up so they look a little bit more like a beaten up old bit of metal or anything really. And I might just do a bit of detail on them, and then I'm going to go through all my sticker packs because I've got absolutely loads of stickers. Let's get that out of the way. Where? Somewhere. Oh, I should be more organised. Gotta find a number plate. I've got that one. I've got, what else have I got here? That one. That one. I think I could use, I quite like the idea. So what have I got? 75, 75, 75, 75s. I could use those as door numbers. But this one's got 46s and little ones, but not these size here. They would look quite good on the door, but I've only got one of them. All right, well, this is where I'm at. Detail time. All right, so I'm pretty much done. I've still got a little bit of wiring to sort out, and just kind of, I had the body mounted, but I'm going to change the way it's mounted slightly. I'm actually going to do two videos. There's this one, and then I'm going to do a build breakdown, which is a little bit shorter. So here's the build. This is what I've done. This is what I needed to do to get it to perform. Blah 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 blah. But let's take a look. Now I'm sure out there's loads of people that had their own take on how it was going to look and what I was going to do with it. And to be honest with you, I just went with what I had. You know, made all the door panels and the vinyl sheet, and I actually really like the concept. It's kind of steampunkish, cyberpunk, bit of, I don't know, wacky races, whatever you want to call it. But it drives so good, and it really makes you think about how you got to drive. So now we're at the final stage. I'm just going to quickly run through what I've actually done to get this to actually perform somewhat like a crawler. All right, welcome back, crawler fans. Right, so I actually had a little bit left from the bar I was using to build this. I didn't waste nothing. Get pretty good at cutting to size and not kind of making mistakes, or just rolling mistakes so that it doesn't cost you more money to fix it. I have fitted a 3D printed part. I believe this is the first 3D printed part on the build. This was also from the old Ramp Crab chassis. I knew I had them somewhere, I just couldn't find them, and then I managed to find both of them in the bottom of a box. So now I've got a nice little mag mount for the front. Cool. However, that then solved the problem, fixed the problem. Nobody see the problem? I can't fit this body back too far because it ends up fouling on all the components right back there. So I actually now need a buffer bar, a bar that's going to kind of hit the rock and kind of push myself up past the nose of the cab instead of hammering the cab. So I managed to kind of bend this into place. Didn't quite get it as symmetrical, but it is level. So then I started delving into my parts and I found one of these. Now, if you don't know what these are, they actually come from these. These are these little whip aerials that Injora do. I never use these parts. I always use these bits and just mount them direct to the body. And I had two on my sand dune buggy build that I did, and this one was just kicking around as well. So these, I realised, then went straight into there. Boom. So mount it to the plate. Now I've got a bracket. Now I've got a mount. I don't have to paint it, do anything. But and I had another problem is, get that out, I had to figure a way of attaching it. I didn't have big enough screws for these. So what I did manage to do was drill it out, and then what I can do is glue. I don't think I need to solder it because I could end up just filling up the hole, and then the brass insert goes straight into it. So a little bit of super glue, get that in there. I don't know. I know what I'm like. I probably am going to attempt to solder it because I know what I'm like. And then that should give me my bumper mount that I'm going to attempt to attach to the side of the chassis. But like I said, sometimes you have small accidents that you got to make work. I didn't quite get it good enough, but I bent it in such a good shape, it looks really good, so it's good enough because I'm going to make it work. I'm going to Bob Ross it, that's what we call it. We're just going to Bob Ross it. Other than that, I still got to make the side mounts. I've got to make some plastic side mounts. It's a little top tip if you're having heavy bodies. Nice bit of roofing lead or old lead weighted at the bottom of the cab. Just takes, you know, the head height right down here. If you want to get a tall body performing very well, I'm going to have to do that with my COE when I get that built. So that's going to need a bit of low down weight. All right, I'm going to get this mounted up. Oh, excuse me, guys. Right, and we should be close. Here's the funky setup again, just because I love it so much. Here's your one side. There's the other side. It's so weird, but it works.
Alright, so there you go, all its glory. Its lights are on. The panels light up really well actually. I'm really quite happy with how they kind of show up. Nice little rear lamp touch. Rock underglow. Yeah, it's so cool. So this little thing has been absolutely fantastic to build, and I have to say, the fact is it had a $150 budget build on it. That kind of led the direction. But if I was to do it again, and maybe I will, I think it would definitely have a few changes. Number one, I'd make it a lot longer. At the moment it sits at 143, 45 wheelbase. I reckon this needs to be kicking about a 165 at least. That way you can get that nice clean hill climb without it stretching too far. We're also limited to 64mm tyres, so that would be out the window. And I think I might have a different style of body that might rock the internet again. This has been an epic build. So a big shout out to Trey at 24 Yep for, well, just putting it out to the community to have a bit of fun. And I really do think we need to be a little bit more creative, a bit more inspired, and a little bit more daring. If it got picked, if it does get picked, it's not going to come first. In fact, it probably come last. But last out of 10, I'll take that any day of the week. Bearing in mind it's only got 3 wheels.
Alright guys, so thanks for watching the video. Yeah, it's been a great build and it's definitely inspired a version 2 with no restrictions. And I think without the restrictions, I can definitely make this, I reckon I can get this super good. I mean, it's already far better than I expected. I didn't really know what to expect, and it's one of the, I guess, one of the things I've had a lot of enjoyment out of is dialing it in and getting it to perform. Now I have changed a few things from this video, so I'm just going to recap, but I will be doing a rig breakdown on this, which is a much short video and just kind of delving into the bare bones of it really.
All right. All right, so here's the changes that I've made. The rear panion, or this panel here, used to be down here. It causes a lot of problems, and actually I get far better performance without it being there. However, what I didn't realise is that I'd already pre-drilled a hole because I was going to try and get it in there, but I never managed to do it, and it actually fits the deadbolt links. These are the bottom front deadbolt links, and it looks really good just there. So really happy with that. I have put the reverse spring shock back in this now because it definitely feels a lot better. This used to have a slightly thicker offset, so used to have the wider offset version. I've removed that and pulled the tyre and wheel back in this way, which kind of centralizes it a little bit more to the rig. Did our tyre trick, so they were quite dusty. Now they've got some tack back. If you want to know how to do that, check out my how to get sticky back on your tyres. Definitely works. It's a great trick. Bumper, that's been added now. And yeah, so I also put a harder spring in this side here, so you can still see it still slops down a little bit on that side, but it's pretty level now. And also when it drops, we've got the smallest amount of drop on this side. When I first built it, it would just, this end would just drop dive down, gone. So what I've done is I've actually put a medium weight spring here, soft spray here, 1 loom band and 2 loom bands. I've also had to wind this up halfway to get that to lift a bit better. Center of the rig is kind of right on here where this joint moves, where it rolls backwards forwards, so it's difficult to kind of get it to lift center with that. So it's around about there. Just added the aerial because hell, it's all about the looks of it. You know, we gotta look good. But there we go. That is dialed in. So I think it's the best I'm going to get out of this situation. I do think the V2 will definitely be longer. I've got a new plan for this arm. And I do think that I can definitely get double way articulation. A lot of people are saying, oh, just do a solid rear bar that just goes up and down. Well, it's a crawler. It needs a lot of articulation. I think figuring out up and down and this side to side is going to make this an absolute beast. So V2 on its way, but for now, Freak Show is done.
So there you go. And the application has been sent. So we'll see. I've really, really enjoyed it, and apparently so have you lot. So it means that the other, well, the V2 is coming, but there is another rig that I've had on the kind of back burner of the brain for a while. Maybe I'll put that into practice as well instead of just theory thinking. I think you guys might enjoy that one too. All right, if you're new to the channel, then welcome to Reactive Train. We don't just do courses, we do crazy stuff as well. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.